Scanning for audio.
Welcome to a Tin Dog podcast, and as often happens, I've got a few notes before I embark on my latest review. First off, I'd like to say that Whostrology now has its own Facebook page. It's run by Deborah Taylor, the ridiculously talented illustrator who's been working on Whostrology. I myself have just signed off the final PDF, so it's going to print, and we'll be able to be, well, we'll all have our little grubby protuberances on it sooner rather than later. Also, I just want to say that a few weeks ago I uploaded a Whostrology window sticker and a Tin Dog podcast window sticker. They're all available on the feed. If you just want to scroll back, www.tin-dog.co.uk, you'll be able to right-click and download them and print them out yourself and stick them in your cars. If you do, can you send me a photograph of them in place? Obviously they're free. I just thought it'd be something nice to have. Anyway, crashing on. Another thing is a slight error on my part that I need to correct. Last week I said that the Peter Purvis interview that I helped conduct at Hooverville 4 was on the Doctor Who podcast. That's the WhoCast. Now, it's actually on the Doctor Who podcast's feed. Similarly, if you'd like to hear one of the other reviews I did, head over to the Minute Doctor Who podcast, because that's on there. Everything's out there, and I'm sure you'll be able to hear it all very, very soon. But enough housekeeping. What we need to discuss is Matt Smith, Year 3, Story 3, A Town Called Mercy.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done.
The Gunslinger is a cyborg. Half man, half machine.
You're really letting him do this?
Save us all? Yeah, I really am.
Everyone who isn't an American, drop your gun.
It's going to come as no surprise to anyone that I absolutely love this story. There are far, far too many points that need to be made about the similarities between this week's story and last week's story, but I'm sure you'll forgive me if you let me talk about those one at a time. First off, of course, I need to talk about how good Adrian Scarborough was. This guy can act. Yes, he's the narrator on Abney and Teal, and yes, he was the butler in the regenerated Upstairs Downstairs. Particularly good in both. This is the guy out of Gavin and Stacey. This is the guy who can basically just act without looking like he's acting. He's exceptionally talented, and in this story he manages to pull off something special. Westerns are the true home of the mysterious stranger. And yes, narratively speaking, the mysterious stranger that we're always interested in is the Doctor. This Doctor has changed. He's 1,200 years old, and he's not quite the man he once was. For the second week running, he's willing to sacrifice the, and I'm using the rabbits here, villain, because we all know that in real life, villains and monsters and the good guys is a lot more grey in area, and I suppose that's what they were trying to do with this storyline. Replace the guy in this story with, say, the guy from last week's story, Solomon, or more likely with Davros. Just as forgiving? I don't know. The Doctor, rather than Amy and Rory, get to experience what this guy's actually done using his own personal medical files. He changes his own race into cyborg alien killing machines. Just like Davros. Obviously he hasn't gone as far as to change them into mutants without pity and that kind of nonsense. But here we have definitely someone who's embraced war and is trying to atone for his sins, but he doesn't get to choose how he's going to do that, despite the fact that that's clearly what he's done. Now, the concept of good and evil is mostly a social concept. It's a creation of society. But we all buy into it to such an extent that you can't really see that, and in many respects that's a good thing. No pun intended. So did this guy act in the best interests of himself and, well, his race? A lot of people could argue yes. The cyborg could argue not quite. It's not like he signed up for the process. Looking on it from the trailer's point of view from last week, I did get a whole Gunman of the Apocalypse thing going on, because if last week's story was influenced by The Hitchhiker's Guide, which it so clearly was, do you know where your trowel is? This story gets to be influenced by certain aspects of Red Dwarf, even down to a horse named Susan. Slipping a bit of gender politics into Doctor Who every now and again is good for the soul, and perfectly acceptable in these reasonably enlightened days. Yes, let's respect the life choices of a horse. And why not? So, similarly to last week, the Doctor is willing to sacrifice the main villain. Unlike last week, Amy is present. Like Donna Noble used to say to the Doctor, you need someone around to stop you. You need someone around to make you back off. To stop yourself from becoming the monster, the judge, the jury, the executioner. You're not just performing to us. We keep you in check. The Doctor was allowed to behave badly last week. Amy was there this week to stop him. But without Amy being there or Rory being there, that's exactly what would have happened. The cyborg manufacturer would have been dumped over the line and executed. The alien Doctor, yes, I know we all fell for it. I'm after the Doctor. No, it's another Doctor. Similarly to last week, he's mistaken for an actual Doctor. Just like, of course, the last time the Doctor was in the Wild West in the Gunfighters, where everyone thinks he's Doc Holliday, but that's a whole different review for a whole different time, which I'm sure I've done. So yes, people don't think he's the Doctor anymore, because that's been rewritten, but as an audience we keep forgetting that. So he's a Doctor. Last week he was needed to repair Solomon. This week he was just mistaken as an alien Doctor and was dumped outside the city. The business with the facial tattoos is very nice. As pieces of ink go, they are very, very elegant. Not as nice as a seal of Rassilon on your upper arm, but we can't have everything, can we? Similar to last week, we have the Doctor referencing that he was involved in the construction and performance of a classical music piece. This was something I forgot to mention last week, so we've had him playing the hands for two, we've had him playing the piano for 4 hands, and we've also had him using the triangle. Is this to help out on the proms on the BBC, when they'd get round to another Doctor Who at the proms? If it is, I'll be a bit disappointed. I'd like to think it's going somewhere else, but I'm not completely sure. But more references to music start you thinking that there's more themes, but perhaps that's the bad wolf watchers in us all. It was a great story. It comes down to basically that. I enjoyed it, I loved it, I moved on. Similar to the music, there is also another double reference. Last week, somebody mentioned the Doctor's Christmas list. This year, there was another Christmas list mentioned. Now, I know that happens in real life. You get a phrase and you use it a few days later, except, of course, at the end of the other story, they dropped Rory and Amy off. Then they'd had some more missing adventures, ones we'd not seen. Now, I know one day we could get those on Big Finish, and that's perfectly fine. But as a viewer, I get annoyed that I've missed stuff, that I've not seen stuff, that there's stuff on TV implied that I've just not got round to viewing. Perhaps that's just me being a bit self-centred. It does happen after all. So yes, see Jex as a complex moral character, someone tortured by his past sins, or just see him as a monster. Either way, he chooses a more elegant solution, something that makes the plot work by taking his own life. It seems almost a cop-out in the storyline, but the final scene of the cyborg watching over the town definitely gets my vote. And I, for one, would love to see another story with the cyborg, despite his voice being just a tiny bit annoying. So with that, I'll fade away and come back quite soon with a review of something else. Probably, Doctor Who related. I would say so. So until next time, be seeing you. You have been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast. Doctor Who and its associated shows are copyright of the BBC. No infringement is intended. To contact the show, email tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. To order, or simply find out more about the book Whostrology, the Time Traveller's Almanac, visit whostrology.com. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.